What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Jake, your favorite investor. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I used my calculator to negotiate a $75,000 price reduction on a property while still at the same time making sure that I was getting a deal that was going to work for me based on my fire flipping strategy. So a property came across my desk, I suppose it's about 10, 11 days ago now. We're going to keep it as 123 Main Street so nobody goes and vandalizes any of my houses. I learned that the hard way. But it came across my desk. They were asking $375,000. Now, what I liked about it is it was kind of a beat up house. It's a little 3-bed, 1-bathroom, 2-car garage, about 1,150 square feet. And it's in a neighborhood where there's a ton of other houses that have those exact same characteristics. It's like every 4 houses in this neighborhood was an exact model match of this house that we're looking at. So I liked it, and I liked that it was kind of beat up. And on the description in the listing, it also said, like, hey, bring your, what's the old cliche that bring your toolbox and your hammers, because this one needs some work. It needs TLC, bring a contractor, only cash on this one. Like, when they say stuff like that, they're not trying to sell the potential of the property. And when they try to sell the potential of the property, they're trying to get top dollar. But instead, they were trying to be very realistic about what we were looking at. And when they do that, that typically means, like, just bring me an offer. So they were asking for $375,000. This house had been on the market for about 2 hours. Came across my desk from a real estate agent. And so in looking at that, it piqued my interest enough to at least expend a couple minutes of energy, like looking at the neighborhood, looking at the comps, and seeing if I could put numbers together on the calculator here. Now, the very first thing that I ever do is I look at the neighborhood trend to see what has sold in the last 6 months that's, within the same neighborhood barriers, the same year built, give or take, 10 years. So this one was built in, I think, 1960. So between 1950 and 1970-ish. Similar size. This one's 1,150 square feet. So we're looking at, between 1,000 and about 1,300 square feet. Similar characteristics, other 1-bathroom homes. And I found a ton of them in that neighborhood that had sold in the last 6 months. And there's, a little handful that sold in the last 3 months. There's one of them that sold about a week ago. But looking in the neighborhood, there was a trend of those types of properties that were in decent condition, meaning like new cabinets, new granite countertops, fresh paint, new flooring. And they were selling, I think, the lowest comparable property, we call them comps. The lowest one was $440,000. There was a 445, there's a 450, there's a 455, and then there's a 470. So in looking at it like that, and the 470 just closed, that one's a little bit higher than the rest of that trend. So I went ahead and said that $450,000 is what I can resell the property for. And when I looked at the pictures, looks like it needs about 35, 40, maybe $45,000 worth of rehab. So I'm put $40,000 in my calculator. Now with closing costs and holding costs, if I'm buying the property for $375,000, my closing cost is typically between 1% and 2% of that number. So I'm gonna say about $4,000, and my holding cost is typically $2,500 for a 6-month project, unless it's in an HOA, which this one is not. So $2,500. So in putting everything together, I'm trying to figure out about how much money I can make. So with the calculator, I fill out all the things that are highlighted in yellow. My hard money lender said that they would give me 70% of the after repair value. They would charge me 1.9% annual interest. I have a gap funder that will give me whatever gap I need, as long as they like the deal, at 12% annual interest. Now, also, if I sell the property, I'm going to pay 5% commissions, pay about 1% in closing costs, seller's closing costs. Typically, it's between 1% and 2%. But look, based on the deal, the way that the numbers looked based on their asking price of $375,000, if I put this money into it and I funded this with the lender structure that I'm used to funding deals with, I would lose. I would be in negative $23,000. I ain't in this business to make negative money. Matter of fact, the minimum profit that I would need to make on this property for me to move forward with it is 10% of the ARV, which is why that 10% of that is there. So I would need to make $45,000 minimum. Okay. I made an initial offer because I didn't know how much the rehab costs were going to be, of $55,000 less than what they were asking. I offered $320,000. Now I know this says no on my calculator, but I just wanted to see how low we could go, because I could make an offer, and if I got it accepted and at least taken off the market, so it's just me and the seller negotiating, I could always make a new offer during my inspection period. That's called a price reduction. So anyway, this is what we're looking at as it lies. Made that offer at 320. They accepted the offer within like 10 minutes, which told me they were willing to, I read that one right. And they were willing to do whatever it took to get this property moved, right? That's what the description said. If I read between the lines and looked at the psychology of the description. So as soon as I put it under contract, I sent it to all my lenders. The lenders verified that 450 grand is a solid after repair value. And I got 4 bids from contractors. They came in at 34,000, 35,000, 38,000, and 40,000. I like the guy that's 35,000 bucks. Now, I don't always take one of the lowest numbers. I just need all those numbers to be relatively consistent, just in case I do buy the deal and I have to fire someone. I have someone else that's right around the same number. Only thing that changed was the 35 grand from 40 to 35. And closing costs, realistically, probably in this area is going to be about 3,000 bucks, okay? That's still $41,000 that I'm making, and I need this number, at least on my projection, to be 45 grand. So there was a delay in the seller giving me disclosures, right? The entire 7-day inspection period that I had in my contract had essentially expired, and they still hadn't sent disclosures. So I knew that I had time, and I knew that they may be hiding something. Now, in this neighborhood, based on the trend and the demographic, this was not a neighborhood where the nationality of the folks, the ethnicity of the folks that typically buy houses in this neighborhood, which is very, very important to understand, they wouldn't really stress out if someone had passed away in the house as long as it was from natural causes. You probably know where I'm going with this. Once we finally got disclosures, the seller disclosed that someone passed away 2 years ago inside the home of natural causes. Now, because the demographics don't really affect whether somebody, a few owners ago passed away of natural causes in the house, I knew that wouldn't impact what I could resell the property for. However, I knew that they were trying to hide something by being delayed in sending that. So once they sent it, I marinated on it for a couple of days. I knew what I was going to do, but I just needed to, I didn't want to do a knee-jerk reaction because I didn't want them to read me. So anyway, I gave an offer, a price reduction of 20,000 bucks, bringing the offer price to $300,000. Okay, that would definitely put me where I need to be and then some. Now, immediately when we sent this, the seller came back at 310. They said, "We'll do it for $310,000. Please buy it," which would still be a deal. But because they came back so quickly and it was kind of a tip off of them, being willing to consider it, they just met me in the middle. I said, "You know what? We're just going to stay at the 300 grand. And if you don't want to sell it to us for that price point, you can put it back on the market. Good luck selling it with someone dying in the house within the last couple of years." So they came back after a couple days. I didn't know if we were going to get it, but I knew I could get them down to 310. But they came back and accepted my offer of 310,000 bucks. So based on a 6-month deal, I should make $62,605. I have a first position lender at 315 grand. I actually have a gap funder, which is a second position lender. Instead of having it at 42 grand, I said 45 grand just to give me a little space in case something happened with renovation. I had to put in a couple grand extra if I needed to, let's say something came up and I need to do landscaping or remove trees or, just anything that would come up. So I got a gap loan amount of 45,000 bucks. But that doesn't impact my profit too much. I'm paying 1% per month or 12% annual on my gap funds. So that's the difference between $420 a month that I pay upon resale and $450 a month upon resale. So for 6 months, that's a difference of $30 a month times 6 months, $180. Like, I'm totally fine with that. Making $180 less to truly get a cushion with my gap funder. So that's what it's looking like. Now, the interesting thing is, if I can sell this bad boy for $450, I should make about 62 grand. But if I sold it for $440, if I miss my mark, I could still make 53,000 bucks. If I sold it for $430, if I missed my mark by quite a bit, I'm still making 43,675. But there's a property that sold a week ago for $470. So if I could sell it for $470, I would make $81,275. I want you to understand, and if you don't have the calculator, it's free. It's in the description below. Download it, play around with it. This thing, for other folks that are in a negotiation, they may spend the entire day trying to figure out what number they need to get to. With this thing, I spend a couple minutes just putting my different scenarios in and understanding what a deal looks like so I can make quick moves. If I can make moves quicker than everyone, as evidenced by me getting this property under contract 2 hours after it went onto the market, like, speed is king in this business. Cash is king because speed is king. If I can make strategic and accurate quick decisions while minimizing risk through this calculator, like, this allows me to do anything. I can negotiate deals, I can negotiate lenders, I can negotiate contractors. I know where I need to be with every aspect of a deal because this calculator tells the whole truth and nothing but the truth when it comes to purchasing or reselling any type of property that I have skin in the game on. And this is one of those properties. I should be buying this tomorrow. I also have the ability to turn around and put this right back on the market after I buy it for maybe 370 grand, 375 grand. There's a way for me to make money a few different ways on a property like this, which is why I love real estate. I don't live anywhere close to this property. I'm not a real estate agent, I'm not a contractor. I'm not using my own money, but I've done over 1,000 of these, just like you just watched. So you guys, right now is a beautiful time. There's a lot of fear in the marketplace, which means we're securing pretty big discounts on properties. When there's fear in the marketplace, a lot of times interest rates drop, which means when we resell the properties, there's a lot more buyers that are bidding on our deals. So these numbers that we can make in profit, especially on this one, if I'm selling it later on in the year where maybe there's a drop in interest rate, it could be very well that I make $81,000 instead of $62,000 at the end of the day on a property that I'll never step foot inside of. I'll be able to pay my contractors, lenders make money on it, real estate agents make money on it, title company makes money on it, and then everything that's left over comes to us. I would strongly suggest, if you haven't got into the real estate business, have the courage to make a move, because right now is a very, very good time. It's a very lucrative time, especially with how much the TV is telling us to be scared of the marketplace. Anyway, it's your boy Jake, your favorite investor. Hope this found you well. Talk to you soon. Happy investing.